In this video, I will discuss everything about the current markets, the latest news, and everything you need to know if you're in an altcoin portfolio, which has been going down a lot. Everything in this video from a new location for you on your journey in this crypto bull cycle. Before we're going to continue, I need to say welcome to our new setup. After, I think it was 5 years of shooting at my own studio at home, we finally decided to go to a new office where we created this studio where you can see the canals, you can see some boats, you can see life in Amsterdam. But this is going to be our new studio for the coming few years, where we are also going to do a podcast with guests. So we're finally getting there. In the past few weeks, the markets have been indecisive as there has been a big correction, the largest crash on the Japanese stock index since 1987. And I might understand that you don't exactly know what to do in these market circumstances. During the actual crash, people were eager to get out of the markets because maybe we're going to have a bear market. Right now, it's unclear where we're going to go to. Is the market going to fall again, or are we going to see a big rally? For that, we've got the consultancy. We are here to advise and to help you to get the best return possible in the markets, but also to give you guidance when it comes to these big events. For that, make sure to reach out to us. You can find the link in the description beneath, and we are here to assist you on all the big questions that you might be having. In this update, I'm going to explain more about what the markets have been doing, as we have witnessed a big correction taking place regarding the Nikkei index, which has been falling. Now, what has been happening? We've seen a very big correction on Monday morning after what we call the Japanese yen carry trade was played out. So the Central Bank of Japan has been raising the interest rates, and due to that, people had to rebalance their portfolio. And by doing that, by the relatively low supply on the markets, we saw a big dump last week's Monday taking place on the markets. But we didn't see a discussion taking place on what has happened after. And that is more important than that we're going to discuss the actual correction. What has happened is that actually every market bounced back up. So the Nikkei has bounced by 21% up after the correction has been taking place. And also, if you look at the Japanese yen versus the dollar, we saw that the Japanese yen came down again. And I think that the moment that the Japanese yen gets more strength, you will see more weakness on the stock markets, and you will see more like defaults or selling taking place, which is going to impact. But at this point, markets are getting into a relatively calm state of mind, where we have seen absolute panic a few weeks ago. Now, what we've seen as well is that we had the sell-off taking place on Apple. Warren Buffett has sold 50% of his Apple stock, and also the Nikkei crash came around, but Apple came back completely and has been going up by 14%. Going back to crypto, we need to know what gold and silver has been doing. Gold has been printing a new all-time high, so you expect that out of all these things that have been taking place, that Bitcoin is going to do well as well. But it didn't. Bitcoin is still lagging behind, has seen a bounce, but it's currently still moving at $58,000 and making itself ready for the leg upwards, but it's delaying itself in the sense, or it's lagging behind in the sense that gold is already up there, the Apple stock is already up there, Nikkei index is already up there, but Bitcoin is still lagging behind. And there are some crypto intrinsic reasons why we have been seeing weakness in the crypto markets at this point. Bitcoin has been bouncing by 26%, and it came from 48,000 to 58,000, but there's still much more to come from there. When we are looking at the markets, we need to know that there are some crypto intrinsic events taking place that have been moving the markets downwards. And in that case, there are 3 events that we need to look at. The first one is Jump, and I've been discussing it in the previous video, where Jump Trading has been selling 500 million worth of ETH to actually balance their portfolio backwards, as they were doing the Japanese yen carry trade. So they were borrowing Japanese yen, they were spending it on ETH, and by doing that, they made a bigger return through which they can pay back in the Japanese yen. However, they continued to sell their position since the 26th of July. they sold approximately 400 million worth of ETH already, through which ETH has been falling substantially. And as you can see, they continued to sell during this week. On the 14th of August, they claimed 17,000 ETH from Lido staking, which is a liquid staking protocol on ETH, and transferred it out for sale, through which another 46 million has been sold worth of ETH, through which on that specific day and during the entire week we've seen Ethereum falling down again. They still have 68 million, so we can expect a lot more downside to come from Jump. Now, on the exact same day, we saw another big event taking place, which is the US government. We know that Donald Trump is very positive when it comes to crypto. Kamala Harris not so much. But we also see that the US government is moving Bitcoin since Donald Trump has been speaking at the Bitcoin conference. Now, on the 14th of August, they were transferring 10,000 Bitcoin worth 600 million to Coinbase Prime to sell. So if you look at the price action that we have been witnessing during the week, we've seen that the markets have been going down based on these two crypto intrinsic events that have been taking place. On the other hand, the positive side is the CPI data, which we were looking for on Wednesday. It came out lower than expected, so we might expect the markets to reverse upwards after Jump is done and we don't have any Silk Road movement at all. But after Jump is done, we can expect that from September onwards, the markets are going to reverse. But what are we going to expect from altcoins? The altcoins have been completely hammered, but also the stock markets have been seeing the exact same. I just discussed it, but I wanted to show you that there are several outcomes out of an event like this. And I discussed last week that there's a very high chance that it's a short-term impact and that we continue with the movements. And therefore, you can see the comparison of the current price action with 1987, when the Nikkei index had the last big crash. After that, we had 2 more years of a bull market before the real crash took place. And that is a very likely outcome of this event, where we expect that the stock markets continue to do well, rate cuts and printing are going to take place, through which that entire climate is going to be great for crypto as a whole. But we still have August, and August is a terrible period for crypto in general. If you can look at the returns that Bitcoin has been providing over the years, then most of the years August is seen as a very negative and bad month to be investing into Bitcoin. But we can also see that what comes after August, which is a beautiful upwards rally to the end of the year. 2017, we've seen the peak. 2021, we've seen the peak in November. So if you look at the charts at the data, you can see that August is the last month that we need to survive before the big sort of bull cycle is likely going to take place when it comes to Bitcoin. And most likely the rest of the markets are going to follow, because Ethereum is still the main driver for altcoins. So when we discuss altcoins, we need to discuss trust and confidence, but we also need to discuss ETH, because ETH is going to be the market leader, and when ETH moves, the rest of the ecosystem follows through. Same goes for Solana. If Solana starts to move, it's very likely that the entire ecosystem of Solana starts to take off. So when we look at Ethereum, we need to make sure that there's an actual reason for ETH to do well. One of them is DeFi. DeFi is quickly ramping up and having more TVL locked into the entire ecosystem. But we also need to look at the ETF. And the ETF is having a very stable new net inflow, positive inflow, which is going to push up the price of Ethereum even more. In the past 2 weeks, we've seen an inflow of approximately 150 million USD. The amount of ETH that has been created and added to the supply in 2024 is around 170 million. So in 2 weeks' time, we've seen an interest into the Ethereum ETF that is the exact same as the amount of ETH that has been created. The only reason why we don't see it in the price yet is because Jump Trading is currently selling their ETH, so that is balancing out. But Jump is only left with 60 million in ETH. So 1 or 2 weeks of more pain is going to come, and then we just have a gradual upwards increase in terms of price action. Additionally, we can also see that the fear and greed index is currently at 29. It's a measurement of 0 to 100. If it is 29, then there is fear. Last week during the crash, the level was 20. And usually when the fear and greed index is providing these numbers, it is a great time to start investing into altcoins or in crypto, because you don't want to be into a greedy period where you want to start investing. We all know what's the end out of that. Now, when we're looking at the markets, you have a few technical levels that we need to clear or break, making sure that from there we start to run up. The first thing that you need to look at, as I discussed, is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is currently seeing a crash from, well, let's say 70,000 to 48. It bounced back up and rejected at 62.8. I've marked two important levels here, which I think are going to be a make or break it. First, we need to break through $62,000, and if we break through that level, that's going to be the first trigger where strong altcoins are going to start moving along with Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin finds strength through either the ETF inflow or through macroeconomic data or anything else, and it breaks through 62,000, it is very likely that we're going to see Solana and all those big altcoins continuing to do well as well. On the other hand, if we lose $56,000, we continue to be having this downwards trend, and we are likely to retest the $48,000 level. So which I'm focused on these 2 points, but I'm primarily focused on the fact that Ethereum against Bitcoin needs to break a crucial level, which we have marked here at 0.046 Bitcoin. If ETH against Bitcoin breaks through there, I think we are going to see a fast expansion because it comes back into the range that we have been acting in for more than a year. And if it does that, then this entire move is an outlier, and the markets start to build back up strength and confidence to be investing into altcoins. Because if you're going to look at altcoins at this point, you can see that altcoins have been completely hammered and are in need for having confidence to come back up to where they used to be. But if you go into social media, you will see that a lot of people are saying, it's a bear market, crypto is dead, blah, blah, blah. I've seen that multiple times. I've been in a cycle for multiple times already. ETH needs to break through that level, have a gradual inflow, and from there we can continue to move. Now in the next part, I'll be discussing what I'll be doing with my altcoin portfolio if you're down a lot. The question is, what is your game plan when you're entirely into altcoins? And this topic I've been going over many times. I'm entirely into altcoins, which is of course not the best period to be in, but I'm quite familiar by having these feelings. I wanted to use a few charts to show you what the data is telling me. And the first one is the total market cap, which you can find on TradingView, excluding Bitcoin and ETH. Currently, we are still 50% below the all-time high. 50%. If we go back in 2020, we can see that we were down 70% at this stage in the cycle. It's very comparable to, I would say, Q3, Q4 of 2020, when the altcoins were still falling down. Bitcoin started to go upwards to 12K, and from there we started to break up upwards and have the big run taking place. It's very familiar to what we are at this point. But this is not the most important chart. If you're going to type orders diverted by Bitcoin, if it works, you can see that this is the valuation of orders, which is comparable to total tree. It's basically the altcoins divided by the Bitcoin valuation. And when you look at that, it's the inverse of the Bitcoin dominance, but it shows you that we are at a cycle low for the valuations of altcoins against Bitcoin. And my theory is that you want to make more Bitcoin through altcoins, and that is the most important part in this entire cycle. So if, for instance, Bitcoin drops 20% and the altcoins drop 10%, great, I'm happy. But if Bitcoin drops 20% and altcoins drop 40%, it shows weakness of the markets, which we still have been seeing. And I want to see that the strength is going to be coming back in the markets. And I do that by this chart. It's orders diverted by Bitcoin, where you can see that we are currently in a stage of bottoming out. Again, it's June, July, August. same period we are finding ourselves into a bottom where we can expect that in the coming few months the markets are going to rotate. Also, from the total tree divided by Bitcoin, we have been seeing a massive crash taking place in the past 2 years, but we have a big bullish divergence taking place where we are also testing out the support for multiple times again. It's hard to do TA on these type of charts, but given the fact that we have a falling wedge and higher time frame support and a big bullish divergence on BTC valuations, and additionally we've got the case of Ethereum ETF inflows, jump finally being done by selling, and all the macroeconomic factors that are going to take into account, like the elections, but also the fact that we're going to see rate cuts, it's very likely that we're going to have a positive breakout of this chart where we can see a bullish momentum taking place. Now, and once we talk about bullish momentum taking place, I would like to take you to a chart that I've been using quite often. And if you are watching from the previous cycle, then you know that I've been a huge investor into Veracity, which was a protocol that had staking and gave me a return of 36% API on a yearly basis. However, once I started to invest into it with my last money, it dropped around 70% against US dollar. I think it dropped around 80 to 90% against Bitcoin. I held on to it, but it was quite hard. So I was holding on to the position, and after that it gave a 27,000% return from the low, excluding the return that we've been making with staking. So these are very difficult periods to be investing into altcoins, trading into altcoins, especially when people are selling, when the Nikkei index crashes, or when social media is saying that altcoins are not doing anything at all, while fundamentally altcoins are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And fundamentally, you can see that more money is getting locked up in protocols, so the price will eventually start to follow. If you feel like it's going to be super hard for you to follow everything in the markets or to do the best as you might be doing, we are doing that for you, and we advise you in our consultancy, where you can reach out towards us on our new website, which you can find in the description beneath. We are here to help, we are here to assist. It's a roller coaster. Crypto is crazy. I've not been changing anything on my portfolio at all, because I know that even though I'm down 60 to 70% during that previous cycle and I'm down currently, I know what's going to come, and I'm still focused and convinced about the actual thesis that I have. I hope that you have been enjoying this update. If you like the new setup, please leave a comment beneath. I'll see you again on a new update next week. Ciao.